We will be hearing about the fallout from this meeting for a very long time. Okay, but the widely shared clips online do not tell the whole story of what actually happened in that meeting.
Megyn Kelly is not holding back, guys. After Marco Rubio delivers a brutal takedown of Adam Schiff's latest defense of Ukrainian policy, Kelly absolutely lets loose, exposing the hypocrisy and the double standards at play. With Adam Schiff and other Democrats attacking Trump over his stance on Zelensky and the Ukrainian war, Rubio, he flips the script, literally just calling out their selective outrage and questioning why peace isn't the priority. Guys, you're not going to believe how Megyn Kelly reacts to Adam Schiff's spin. This is one fiery exchange you don't want to miss. If you guys appreciate the daily updates, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.
If Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Putin believe that they're going to intimidate and bully and threaten President Zelensky to join the club of corrupt and unprincipled leaders, they will literally need to wait until hell freezes over twice, because this is a man who is committed to the survival of his country.
The propaganda is what's coming out of J.D. Vance's mouth, and it's Russian propaganda.
I saw the meeting as a despicable display of bullying by the president.
It was Vice President Vance, particularly, who was on the offense, who was berating President Zelensky.
It is absolutely shameful what is happening right now. The White House has become an arm of the Kremlin.
There you heard media and Democratic leaders continuing and repeatedly calling Friday's blow-up at the White House an ambush of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky by President Trump and Vice President Vance.
President Trump hitting back at Ukrainian President Zelensky just a short time ago on President Zelensky's comments in London yesterday during a briefing where he said, quote, "An agreement to end the war is still very, very far away, and no one has started all these steps yet."
We were all together when this broke. Remember, we had the gals from Red Scare on. We just got long clips. And now I've watched the whole thing, and maybe you have too. But I'll tell you, if you haven't watched the whole thing, you haven't seen the proper parts highlighted by the mainstream media, including Zelensky's antagonism and true open disrespect.
President Trump responded to Zelensky by saying, quote, "This is the worst statement that could have been made by Zelensky, and America will not put up with it for much longer." It is what I was saying. This guy doesn't want there to be peace as long as he has America's backing, and Europe, in the meeting they had with Zelensky, stated flatly that they cannot do the job without the U.S. Probably not a great statement to have been made in terms of show of strength against Russia. What are they thinking? But Democrats aren't outraged by President Zelensky. They're mad at President Trump.
And the Democrats' apparent attempt to sabotage the meeting just prior to it, which they've been openly bragging about, but now that they just want to blame it all on Trump, are trying to say has been totally misrepresented. No, we didn't do anything. You, Chris Murphy, you're a villain and you're a liar.
Have never felt such shame about American policy before, and I don't know how our allies trust us after this.
Putin and his cronies are probably popping champagne bottles right now.
We have someone that is occupying the White House, and as far as I'm concerned, he is an enemy to the United States.
On the other hand, the rational one, Secretary of State Marco Rubio is standing up for President Trump and calling out Democrats for having a double standard when it comes to peace talks. Watch.
Shouldn't we all be happy that we have a president who's trying to stop wars and prevent them instead of start them? And I just don't get it. I really don't, other than the fact that it's Donald J. Trump. If this was a Democrat that was doing this, everyone would be saying, well, he's on his way to the Nobel Peace Prize. This is absurd. We are trying to end a war. You cannot end a war unless both sides come to the table, starting with the Russians. If there are no negotiations, what is the alternative? Another 4 years of war, another 3 years of war in which the United States and Europe continues to pour billions of dollars into a war in Ukraine? Is that the alternative?
You guys only saw the end. You saw what happened today. You don't see all the things that led up to this. So let me explain. The president's been very clear. He campaigned on this. He thinks this war should have never started. He believes, and I agree, that had he been president, it never would have happened.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio addresses the botched minerals deal with Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky finally apologized. Hey, by the way, guys, if you're one of the real ones who really enjoy what we do here on the channel, you've got to check out the Inner Circle. This is where our true supporters get exclusive access to content that I just can't share here, completely commercial free. It's also the best way to keep this channel going strong. So if you want to be a part of something special, join us over there. Links in the description or in the pinned comment down below. Apologizes to President Trump and the entire nation. Democrats cry foul regarding the argument within the Oval Office. Putin makes a shocking trade offer to the United States, and Vice President J.D. Vance gets greeted with protests as he goes on vacation. Guys, we got a lot to go through today, so let's go ahead and get the ball rolling with Marco Rubio. By the way, if you appreciate the daily updates, please take a second and hit the like button for the video. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. Marco Rubio, he went on CNN to talk about the very public disagreement between President Zelensky and our nation's leaders. Now, it actually seemed as if he was puzzled by what Zelensky was doing in front of the cameras. And here's his response when told that the Ukrainian leader didn't feel like apologizing to both President Trump and J.D. Vance. Watch.
We just heard from President Zelensky. He said he does not think that he owes President Trump an apology for what happened inside the Oval Office today. Do you feel otherwise?
I do, because you guys don't see, you guys only saw the end. You saw what happened today. You don't see all the things that led up to this. So let me explain. The president's been very clear. He campaigned on this. He thinks this war should have never started. He believes, and I agree, that had he been president, it never would have happened. Now here we are. He's trying to bring an end to this conflict. We've explained very clearly what our plan is here, which is we want to get the Russians to a negotiating table. We want to explore whether peace is possible. They understand this. They also understand that this agreement that was supposed to be signed today was supposed to be an agreement that binds America economically to Ukraine.
So just to clear that up, this deal would have given Ukraine security in a sense that we would have a vested interest in their country. Now, this would probably amount to billions upon billions of dollars, putting the United States at the forefront of protecting the country, giving what we're supposed to be getting. Now, Rubio believed that the deal was the best path forward for Ukraine, but instead of signing it and being done with it, Zelensky forced his way into the Oval Office. And here's what Marco Rubio had to say when asked what Zelensky should apologize for.
But what specifically do you want to see President Zelensky apologize for?
Well, apologize for turning this thing into the fiasco for him that it became. There was no need for him to go in there and become antagonistic. Look, this thing went off the rails. You were there, I believe. It went off the rails when he said, let me ask you a question to the vice president. What kind of diplomacy are you talking about? Well, this is a serious thing. I mean, thousands of people have been killed, thousands. And he talks about all these horrible things that have happened to prisoners of war and children, all true, all bad. This is what we're dealing with here. It needs to come to an end. We are trying to bring it to an end. The way you bring it to an end is you get Russia to the table to talk.
That's the biggest mistake from Zelensky, because I'm not sure if he wanted to show as if he was tough or anything like that, but disagreeing with the president and the vice president of the United States, it's not a good idea, especially not on national television, meaning that you want the entire country to see how confrontation you are towards people who want to help you, the people who actually want to end the war. Now, I want you to realize that while Zelensky is doing this, Putin is actually saying that he is willing to play ball. Here's what he said about a possible partnership with the United States. We will be open to cooperation with our American partners. And when I say partners, I not only mean administrative and governmental agencies, but also private companies if they show interest in working together. Wow. Now, Russia possesses significantly higher resources of the kind of rare earth minerals than Ukraine. Russia is one of the uncontested leaders when it comes to rare and rare earth metal reserves. This could possibly change a lot of things. Can you imagine a United States-Russia partnership possibly? I'm not trying to get ahead of ourselves, but wow. I'll take Russia over Ukraine if we could partner up. Anyway, although keep in mind, there isn't a deal set in stone just yet here. Now I want to talk about Paul Rieckhoff. So this guy suffers from extreme TDS because he alleges that Zelensky's meeting with the president and vice president was a setup.
It wasn't just a mistake, it was an ambush. I mean, this was a plan. This was a politically calculated ambush from all sides, right? No one would feel comfortable walking into an environment like that from any country, and no one should be treated that way. From the reporter to the greeting to the mocking of his clothes, it was beneath America and beneath the White House to treat a guest in our country and a leader who is actively engaged in combat, who is right now losing his fellow service members, who's losing his women and children. His cities are being bombed. And we're talking about his clothes, and we're talking to him that way. It was victim shaming, which is what Trump has been doing to Zelensky in Ukraine since before he got elected. It's unacceptable, it's inappropriate, and it's also undermining not just Ukraine, but our own national security. We are now aligned with the bad guys. Russia is the bad guy, Ukraine is the good guy. And when we continue to attack Ukraine and defend Russia, that puts us in line with the bad guys, which is not where America wants to be.
Hey, by the way, guys, if you're one of the real ones who really enjoy what we do here on the channel, you've got to check out the Inner Circle. This is where our true supporters get exclusive access to content that I just can't share here, completely commercial free. It's also the best way to keep this channel going strong. So if you want to be a part of something special, join us over there. Links in the description or in the pinned comment down below. And Rieckhoff is not alone with these kinds of thoughts. Democratic Representative Robert Garcia slammed both President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance, calling them both a disgrace for this argument. And then watch him get shut down as he's faced with the facts.
It was, in my opinion, just a very shameful display for all that to happen in the Oval Office, in front of the world and all of our allies who we need to stop Russia. And I think what honestly is most disgraceful is that throughout that conversation, that the president could not be clear that Putin is a danger to Europe, to Ukraine, and to the United States. Putin is an authoritarian dictator, and we need to call it like it is. And to embarrass Zelensky, who is taking Putin on right now, to belittle him, an ally, and our efforts in Ukraine.
Let me just,
I think it was a big mistake.
For being, fair here, you're saying it was shameful and that Zelensky was the one that was attacked. But let's be honest, we all know when you're in that Oval Office setting, and this is a deal that's already done, this is the finish line in a photo op. President Zelensky, who I've interviewed twice, once in Kyiv, months after the war began, once last summer, right after he was very savvy diplomatically, coming off the heels of the UN General Assembly. And then yesterday, he allowed himself to be drawn into a fight and then was, using the vice president's first name, JD, pushing back. And I understand what he was saying, but wasn't this perhaps an opportunity that Zelensky's advisor should have told him, look, don't pick this fight, and this is a very important moment, just get the deal done?
Look, it's very clear that the vice president and the president were teaming up to take on Zelensky in front of the world press. And let's be really clear. Putin is murdering brutally Zelensky's own people. And so he, of course, is going to stand up for his country and his people. And Zelensky did come to the White House to try to put together a deal with the president.
Now, in light of the words that have been said between both parties, President Zelensky must have realized that he messed up, because at the end of his interview with Fox's Brett Baer, he apologized.
Last thing, Mr. President. Yeah. Do you think your relationship with Donald Trump, President Trump, after today, can be salvaged?
Can be. Yes, of course, because it's relations more than two presidents. It's the historical relations, strong relations between our people. And that's why I always began with to thank your people, from our people. And this is the most important. And of course, thankful to President and of course to Congress, but first of all to your people. Your people help to save our people. People, the first. Human rights, the first. This is very, very important. And we are thankful and sorry for this. I mean, we wanted very much to have only strong relations, and I very count that we will have it.
This didn't end the entire debacle inside the White House. Protesters from Vermont showed their anger for VP J.D. Vance by putting up signs as he, along with his family, made their way to a vacation spot, forcing them to move to a spot away from these people.
Going downhill for Vice President J.D. Vance and his family following yesterday's fiasco there in the Oval Office with Ukrainian President Zelensky. There's some new video now we have showing the vice president being greeted by protesters holding anti-Vance, pro-Ukraine signs as he makes his way there to Vermont for a ski resort vacation. More protesters met the Vance family outside of the resort, and the family ultimately had to move to an undisclosed location. Vermont Governor Phil Scott welcoming the vice president yesterday, saying that I hope Vermonters remember the vice president is here on a family trip with his young children. And while we may not always agree, we should be respectful.
Now, just to be clear, guys, this is Vermont. They have Bernie Sanders as their senator. That should answer every question that you have about the state of Vermont. Now, I want to link you guys to a live stream that I did recently. I covered the possible Doge checks or Doge stimulus checks or Doge dividend checks and how CNN's Scott Jennings continues to destroy liberals on the Abby Phillips show. Make sure you guys check that out. As always, appreciate y'all hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. We'll see you next time.